All right, we will call this meeting of the Fairfield Public Library Board of Trustees to order at 7:06 PM. Our first item of business is public comment, which none in the room, none on the call. So moving on, we will go to the approval of the minutes from our May meeting. Please take a minute to review. And, oh, there's Peter.
Hello.
Welcome, Peter.
Okay, if you need my vote, you have it.
Got you all set up right here.
Sorry.
No worries. Just saying we have a quorum, so Chris is on the call, and I know he's got a short time constraint, so we got started. But right now, we're just doing the review of the minutes from our May meeting.
We're not gonna look at the June one? This is July.
I meant June. I meant June, my apologies. Yeah, typo in there.
Okay.
We have a motion to approve. Please note that they are from June 5th, 2023, rather than May 1st.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion?
I will second it.
All right. All in favor? All opposed? So passes. Chris, I know there's quite a bit going on at your house, so understood. For chairman's report, I just like to say, I think one of the things that has been really exciting over the summer is I've heard from a number of friends and acquaintances in the town about the summer reading program, and especially the individual school nights that we had. I know there were a lot of people that attended, and people were very excited about that. So, just think that that's something that I would like to note that is very exciting and something that's getting a lot of excitement around the library within the town. So appreciate for everyone's hard work with that. On that, I think continue to be I'll be interested to hear if the heat has had any impact on attendance at the library. But I think that there are a lot of people that are really excited about the summer reading from both adult and children perspective. So with that, I'll hand it over to Scott for the library updates.
So June was a culturally rich month at the Fairfield Public Library. We once again were a location for musicians to perform at the international event Make Music Day. 4 bands performed between both library buildings. It was very, very popular. Teen Services hosted another mystery night, an after-hours program. This time the attendance was maxed out and went above the amount of people who signed up for it. The summer reading kickoff that happened in June at the Fairfield Museum Green was amongst the best attended in years. We moved it there. We usually did it at Penfield Pavilion. We moved it there because originally when we were planning, they thought they were gonna start digging out underneath it. But we're glad we did. Fairfield Museum's a great partner, and we actually got more traffic than we did in prior years. So we're gonna think about that in the future.
Great.
And then at Woods, the staff has created a Words of Wisdom tree, really awesome, where patrons can add their favorite saying or quote as a summer reading activity. This has been really popular. It's really cute. It's really a great thing to see. On the operations side of things, we were also very busy. Our head of IT is out for the majority of the summer. We are managing with the assistance of the town's IT department. So far, it's been a little rocky, but not terrible. There still are some issues with our book distributor, Baker and Taylor. However, we are getting the majority of our items now. And website traffic was steady with a slight increase to the My FPL page. We believe this was due to interest in the open trustee position, which is pretty interesting to see that it would drive that much interest. One incident led to a 1-year loss of library privileges from a patron charged by the police with a breach of peace for their actions inside the library. The DPW honestly needs a gold star for this summer. They did a fantastic job redoing the slate walkway between the parking lot and Post Road at the main library where their story walk is. I would hire them to do something at my house. They also did the shelving. I think I reported this last month, the shelving for the library things. I mean, just really like incredible work. So gold star for them. And the town librarian was quoted extensively by the Hartford Current in a story about the Old Lime's current book challenge. That's because they had the same book challenge that we did here. And the quotes are provided in the report, but it's a good story. Oh, they did choose to leave the book on the shelf where it was. I'll be happy to report, since now I'm in a lot of meetings, the overwhelming majority of public libraries having items challenged. They're doing, same thing this board did. You're not an island. You're pretty much following really the best and the standard of the way book challenges are being handled. It's a good job. And that's it. Chris, we're still working on your question from the last meeting. We're having a little bit of problem with our integrated library system, getting the stats about how many holds are being done. But Circulation did run a report that said that while circulation is robust, it's people taking out more items. Whether or not it's a reduction of the amount of time they're coming in the building, that probably could be answered by your really good question of, is it through requests and people just requesting stuff and then coming in? But right now, it just seems like people are coming in less frequently and borrowing more items when they do come in.
Scott, could you talk a moment about that incident where you suspended the privileges?
Sure. It was a woman who she was a woman who came in with distress. We tried to assist her. She refused assistance. We then gave her a study room to go to kind of hope that it would help. She began to make significant amount of noise and showed distress while in that room, kind of refused our help. So we did call the police, which we usually do. This individual is a known entity. We have spoken to the social worker at the police department while she was in the study room. The police officer who was trying to get her out of the room because she's making a lot of noise, she swung an item at the police officer. The officer handled it really, really well. She was not the biggest officer, and we were really impressed not only with kind of the humane way she approached the situation, but the fact she kept her cool. Philip and I stood outside the room as it happened. But anytime you're charged with something in the building, you do lose your privileges for up to a year. And there's always the opportunity to, have a sit-down meeting with us to talk about getting those privileges back.
Who has to police that within the library?
Usually the staff will give me a heads up if somebody's in the building.
So they all know.
Yeah, and then and it'll be, we're a limited public space.
Yeah.
So if we say you're not allowed in this space, it is then trespassing.
Yeah.
So how we would normally handle it is we have a list. Luckily, we only have, my prior library, we had about anywhere from 40 to 50 people who were banned at a time. I mean, I would do a banning letter a week. Here, it's like probably on the average every 2 to 3 months. Typically, people come in the door, we're made aware, or managerial staff, or whoever the full-time person is on the time, probably give Jan or I a call, we'll check, say, if it's the person, call the police. It's less of a warning. Once it's reached this level, you've probably shown a level of behavior that you're not gonna react well to just Scott, the reference librarian, coming from behind the desk. So typically, we get the police involved right away, and I will say, that my ops, I've been involved in the overwhelming majority of times the police have been called and assisted with removing somebody from the premises. I have been impressed. I've been in a lot of those trainings. I know a lot of police officers over my career. I've interfaced with a lot of police officers over my career. Thoroughly, every time I see the chief, I remind him of this. I'm thoroughly impressed with the way they approach the situation. It's how I would want it, the situation approached, down to, hey, how many milligrams of methadone did they give you today? In a very nice, concerned way. That completely blew my mind. Like, not only did they go do a training, they're following the training and they're taking the training to heart. So, thoroughly impressed with the way the police have handled the interactions.
I was only asking the question because we're dealing in a society today where there's all this unpredictability
Yes.
about what somebody might do. I wasn't concerned about how our law enforcement was handling it as much as, when you say something like that, what was it? A man, a woman, what kind of incident was it? Because again, and there's nothing you can do about it.
They escalate quickly.
It's just the sensitivity that we are, everybody's heightened a little bit.
There is a lot of training. The staff here have proactively taken a lot of training on de-escalation. And there really is training out there that's about, the training is how to deal with unruly patrons or patrons who just can't seem to follow behavior policies and other policies. And they're regularly out there. It's pretty amazing.
Maybe we go to the concept that former president had, that everybody should be walking around with a gun.
I am glad that guns are not allowed in the library, or I don't think they're allowed in town buildings. So, no. But I do think the way I've witnessed the staff
I was being
handling,
facetious.
I know. The way I've seen the staff handling the situations has been really impressive, and that's both our staff and even the town staff.
Great. On a lighter note, where's the mascot vote stand?
We can't say, we're not gonna, as much as I wanna rig the elections, I'm a very,
It just makes the most sense.
yeah. Yeah. You see them all over town.
Yep.
I don't see that many otters around town. Anyway, yes, it's going well. That's very popular. I think we're gonna continue to do little votes like that on certain things, just to get people engaged and
Great.
excited.
It's fun, yeah.
That's great.
We gotta engage people.
And on a slightly more serious note, the Library of Things, I know you mentioned that they're working on cataloging and adding items. Where does that stand? What is there like?
We're doing a soft launch in the next few weeks that'll involve games and things of that
Okay.
nature. The larger items, we're on a little bit of a holding pattern because the town has expressed some concerns about insurance.
Interesting.
So we're going through that process. They've been very positive, very supportive. But we're pumping the brakes just a little bit so that they can cross all the Ts and dot all the Is.
This is the kind of thing of, waiver of
Yeah.
liability.
Which we have, and the town attorney has gone through, looked at and loved.
Yeah.
So we're there on that regard. It's just, not all the departments are talking to each other and we just have to realize.
Yep, makes sense. The only reason I think that's something that we could use as it could be a great marketing opportunity for the library.
Yeah.
You know, this is not your grandfather's library.
But it is, but
It is,
Yeah.
but it's also.
A lot of libraries are
Your
doing
grandfather
that.
might have had those
Yeah,
jewels.
Westport, even needs a cataloger for their library thing.
Yeah.
I saw that, I was like, that's kind of interesting, like,
Yeah, it's something that I think will get people, I've mentioned that
Yeah.
to people when talking about the library, the things that we do have. You guys got all tired of me when I mentioned the Steve Library, I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
But,
the library things is cool too, because visually, depending on where it is in the library too, when people see that, it's,
Exactly.
people get really jazzed, because up at Cape, they actually have one that people can take kayaks out, believe it or not, and paddle boards. Talk about a waiver of, you know,
liability.
liability, but, you know, but it's mostly tools and musical instruments and games. and-
Peter and HR will start mentioning kayaks, and
I just thought it was hilarious, like the things
I
that
get a
they
little
do.
nervous.
Yeah, I think that's, once we have a date, like a launch,
We'll let you know.
yeah, let us know and keep us updated, because I think that is something that, in terms of getting out to the community, talking to people about what's available, and that'll be a big
Our
opportunity.
hope is the fall. It's a full launch.
Very cool.
Perfect. Awesome. Good stuff. Then we want to talk about the 23-24 schedule.
Sure, so attached is the proposed schedule for this fiscal year. The schedule is very similar to the previous year. The only exception is a full closure on October 20th for full staff development day. And also being open on Good Friday, which is a town designated holiday, so there will be some small financial implications for that. The schedule is based on usage, budget, and some equity. We're not closed for any other religious holiday. Easter Sunday is something kind of everybody follows. It's become somewhat of a holiday for everyone, much like Christmas. But Good Friday is very clearly a religious holiday. We are a diverse community. This is an informational item. The board has not voted on this schedule. I'm sure the board in the future can decide to vote on a schedule. A lot of boards I've served have, but for this purpose, it's an information.
Okay. Good stuff. All right. For the next item of business, we have our policy review of the facilities use policy. Scott, if you want to walk us through.
Sure, this policy defines the appropriate use of public space, including study and meeting rooms. You passed this policy about a year ago. This is in the best interest of library users, so when everyone may safely, comfortably use the library facilities. The changes to this version include a clear introduction, so most of the policies you'll see coming forward, we kind of have a weird collection of policies we borrowed from other libraries, or policies that definitely have the voice of the administration of that time. I like an introduction paragraph, so you're gonna get a paragraph like the one here. That's one of the changes. The other, it establishes the library as a town department. I really like the town attorney, and we now meet on a regular, he has office hours, which is great, and I always pop in. He's very impressed with our policies, by the way,
That's good.
which is cool to keep the attorney happy. But we kind of had this back and forth because he definitely wants a clarification that the town does have some legal liability to what we're doing. So, the wording that we've kind of come up with was the library as a town, as a town department, and then in parentheses, library, so that way through the rest of so it designates us from the other departments. It doesn't make this an overarching town policy, but it also points out that this includes the town, so you can't sue the town if your kayak flips over the sand. So that I liked. And then one change to this is food. This limits food matching what has already been adopted in policy interpretation for general rule. So you all pass policies and the managerial staff kind of sit down and go, okay, let's carve out some rules for this. We've always taken a loose interpretation where we've designated when and where food can be. This unsurprisingly is the biggest policy pushback you get at almost every public library. Dancing on the table, after a while, someone can figure out, yeah, maybe this does break rule or two, but people are very adamant that they can come in with their full picnic meal and sit at a table and eat there. We do provide some leniency, like we allow children to eat in the foyer where we can keep it clean. We do allow, we turn a little bit of a blind eye to those goldfish, in Little Farm. We do allow covered drink, which is, to me, my hometown library doesn't. It still drives me nuts. All those things, but it kind of, putting it in the policy really clearly defines that this was a decision made at a governance level. And I believe we'll get a little less pushback because of that. Someone came in with a full meal from, I think, the burger place down the street the other day and really pushed back on the staff because they were in a study room and they should be able to eat in the study room. I can tell you that's absolutely where we don't want someone eating a full meal.
Yeah.
Yes, that's really the only change.
Scott, I noticed that the language around, that it's libraries operated facilities.
Yes.
Library,
Yes.
does that expand to when we are operating programs outside of the library?
So that's really, the question there becomes, we have no control over that situation.
Mhm.
So at the Green, everybody had to sing and stomp,
Yep,
bring your food,
yeah,
get a sandwich from across the street and bring your food. If we're in the school, it's the school's policies.
okay,
So that's really with the idea of, it's really a two-prong idea. It's one, we don't want to override rules of places that we're invited to, like the preschool across the street from Woods.
Yep.
Secondarily, we want people to get in the mindset of the library is an organization that serves the community everywhere. It's just we're lucky enough to have two bases of operation where we provide the majority of our services.
gotcha. Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure. All right. Does everyone want to take a minute to just review the policy as it's been edited? Scott, under endorsements. Look at it, there's one, it's. The red line, Jim Redline Library Lobby, the library portion. I'm assuming that's just because it's any facility operated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the policy is clearly for our space,
Yes. It's clear you can talk to somebody that hasn't read a bunch of legal documents from work recently. So you note on here, replace the 2018 bag policy, that was the one we voted on last year. at this
Yes.
time. Okay. Yeah, I remember that's one we wanted to just eliminate. All right. Anybody else have any questions?
Just one question that just been this, probably because I'm overanalyzing it because of a legal thing, about any trash from said eating must be properly disposed of. But what does that mean? Where? Should we say like in our garbage cans or that they have to take it from the library?
Either or. I think
Okay.
leaving it open to our trash or asking for it to be removed.
Okay.
Um,
We have to dedicate.
no, it's a good question because when we regard facilities, this means inside and outside.
May I have
So,
your attention, please? The library will be
A lot
closed
of
in
people
30 minutes.
eat lunch.
You need a
On
library
those
card
benches,
or
which is great.
assistance, please come to the circulation desk
No
now.
garbage.
Just a reminder, the Wi-Fi will shut down at 7:45.
Any other questions? Chris, any questions? Do we have a motion to adopt these changes?
Some,
Have a second? All in favor of adopting the changes made by Scott and the town attorney to our facility use policy? There. Chris is texting me in favor. And so it passes. We've adopted the changes as noted in here. In conjunction between Scott and our town attorney. We do have a new policy to review, which is our privacy and confidentiality of library records policy. Scott, do you want to walk us through?
Sure, this is a very draft policy, but it's something that probably, I'm thinking October is really when we vote on it. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention and give you this current version. The draft policy covers privacy of patron records and usage. It is similar to library policies across the country and is in line with state law. The reason why I'm bringing it early is it may impact our sharing of the ILS with partners. However, this is done purposely. We're a little concerned about integrity of data and safety of data with 3 different institutions. We also don't have MOUs with those institutions to use the ILS, and I'm reminded of that because we're currently going through the billing process. So this may be something I need to speak to other executive directors about, and maybe speak to their boards about, or have board members speak to their boards about. Because I would like to see an MOU in place. I'm just saying that, you know, the patrons that are in the ILS, you can't share their borrowing data, you can't share their home address, things of that nature. This policy is in line with state law, so in some ways it's redundant, but sometimes it's good to adopt policies that are in line with state law.
I would agree in terms of clarification of what is and is not available.
Yeah.
Who is it that you're looking? Sorry, clarify for me, which groups do we need MOUs from?
So currently, our integrated library system is used by us, Pequot Library, and the Fairfield Museum.
Okay,
It is primarily Pequot's ILS. Fairfield Museum uses it to a small capacity for their local history items. But their access to that data is the same as our staff. So I would like to have an internal document that our staff sign off on when they get hired, saying,
yes,
you cannot look up John's reading record, or you can't look up Pete's account to see what their phone number and where they live is. I was at a library where a volunteer actually used the ILS to stalk a young lady, so I know where this can be a little dangerous. So want to get our staff to sign off on that when they get hired, but also want our partner organizations to make sure that their staff are appropriately using this information.
So that data could be used for mailing, emailing?
It can, in the policy, it allows us and the Friends
Mhm.
to use that data. So
Right,
the organization.
But not the people, not Pequot and not.
No, Pequot can, they can. But it's, you know, it's, so they can't. What this agreement will do is make it so that board member can't just show up and get somebody's address.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
But it gives, I know, but it gives us, you know, it does give us the leniency, but I think in the MOU, we probably will talk about maybe vetting who has access for those purposes, you know, with the line.
we have logging of access, so if somebody goes in and does something,
We do, but the accounts are shared accounts.
Right.
So they could be going in and looking at
Yeah, you just sign
what
in
they're,
as blah, blah, blah.
what they've taken out before and stuff, so they can make
So
recommendations.
what they've taken out in the past is gone, unless you opt into that.
Really?
So you can't come to the desk I'm not even sure yet if we can opt in here. I'm only leaving this in the policy.
Yeah.
Because some ILSs make that available.
Yeah,
And the current version of Cersei.x that we're using,
yeah.
I have a $20 bet. It's not long for this world. So in a couple of years, we probably will be talking about a new integrated library system. Because this one is literally staples and tape
Yes.
and rubber bands. And a terrible billing department. So, we're leaving that in the policy for growth in the future. But yes, once the Patriot Act passed, and you gotta remember Connecticut is where the librarians who kind of stood up to the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
Once it passed, several ILSs made it more a feature than an option to be able to record previous items you previously took out, unless you didn't return where you had a file.
Interesting. So then, in other words, like, so for reader advisory and things like that, people can't necessarily say, oh, you took this, and this out. I recommend this to you this time.
Nope, not at this moment in time unless they opt.
That's interesting.
Peter?
Legal's reviewed this,
Yes.
because, the reason I ask is maybe it's by design that, and I think it's more of a grammatical issue. Some of it is fuzzy, what I would consider is fuzzy, which sometimes legal wants it to be neither here nor there. So you can interpret something, like presidents are allowed to have any documents they want. They can hold them.
We've gotten your position, Peter.
What?
We've gotten your position.
I don't have a position.
Sorry.
Anyway, so I was just wondering if
Legals, this is actually, the majority of this was borrowed from another library.
Hmm.
well, that makes it even fuzzy.
Who's a well-regarded library, so,
I'm not questioning.
yeah, and then it was reviewed. I've gone through it, I've compared it to other policies. We had something similar in Albany, actually, I like this one better, maybe a little bit for the fuzziness, because as an appointed official, I do like a little fuzzy in my policy as well, leave some interpretation up. But yes, this is borrowed from a template from a well-regarded library compared to other policies, kind of changed a little bit here and there to fit us and then reviewed by legal. And reviewed, so far it's been reviewed by 2 managers. It's been reviewed by our head of circulation. Typically what I do is when I draft a policy, I bring it to 1 or 2, like I brought it to Jan and I brought it to Sue Bala, because they both are kind of my experts in this field. And then we went back and forth. They had some really great questions. We got some clarification. We are gonna bring it to the next managers meeting for managers to look it over and kind of raise their concerns. Then I'll probably bring another version back to legal, and he does know another version's coming back. And that's when I'll probably put the draft at the September meeting to the court.
So Scott, so how is it determined, or how do you guys gauge then when title or an author is super popular? Is it just like number of times it's been
Number of times
taken out,
it's
there's
been
no label to whoever took it out?
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are, at libraries I was previously at, there was some third-party data sharing that kind of compared library usage to like what the credit bureaus and we used one which we loved, but we definitely felt it was intrusive. It used data that, when my wife was in retail, they used the same company.
Yeah.
So you can do that, and those companies are out there. That information is really helpful.
like tracking sales.
Yeah, that information is really helpful on building projects. That information is really helpful when you're doing a public vote or you're really doing a big ask for money, but I'm really uncomfortable with continually using that data, because then you're kind of also throwing data into that.
Mhm.
My concern now with the book challenges that are going on in some of the states, and, that it's nothing to do with the Patriot Act, but it has to do with the fact that they are accessing who's taking out some of these challenged books and maybe potentially be harassing people.
Yes.
That's my, that's my.
Yes.
One of the reasons why this policy is being.
So I think that's smart.
Thank you.
So just to confirm, the library use doesn't mention, the way it's written does say that it is, it maintains records of your checked out items if you request that through your library account. So it's an opt, specifically, explicitly an opt-in service. Um, for those that want to opt in or confirm that they are not included, that's one of the things, if we put a privacy and confidentiality policy out, there will be questions and people will want to know where they can see this stuff and you know, the settings for that. So I would say that's something just to keep in mind as we look to this, so verifying these things, if you want to check your privacy settings, here's how you do it. That's just my recommendation. But yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. What was the company that you were referring to?
6 years ago. I will get back to you on that one. I can't remember who that we
Where do
used.
you want to post this policy?
Well, it'll always be posted on the website along with the other
Besides
policies.
the meeting?
It'll always be posted on the website along with other policies.
The other place?
I am thinking about doing maybe a handout when people sign up for their accounts of just an overview of the pertinent policies and where they can find them. This would be one of the ones we list first.
Yeah. I think that makes sense for especially new account holders and that we have. Trying to get people to get library cards with the library things. Would be good to have that included. Yeah, I think just with the note of all the things going on, especially to Jill's point, that it does make sense for us to have, you know, simplified language around it, potentially to just clarify the why we put this in place. So just something to think about.
We may wish to consider at the end, saying if you have any questions with respect to this privacy policy, please contact Andy.
Cool, I can go to the black hole.
If Andy's not available, Jill.
Jill's not available, Aaron. No, I'll just send them on the trip.
Or give him Optimum's phone number.
But I do think that there's, when people see privacy, even if it's just a, you know, it's a couple bullets.
Yeah.
This is what it means. You know, I mean, just coming from a space where we deal in personally identifiable information and people's concerns about it, you're like, we don't do this, we don't do this, we don't do this. There you go. That's what this all says. So, that's my only thing with that, is we may just want to have something, you know, companion to it as we put that out there.
I think people are so much more aware of that now too. It's become much more to the forefront, don't you think? Where they're always looking on the site now and when you sign up for things or.
Yeah, but everyone's still, you know, if you, it's three, you know.
Like I'm saying, if you see this, you say.
They can see it, they're just gonna say, what the hell does this mean?
Right,
And almost be more concerned based on the fact, the length of it, and the language of it.
Yeah.
Where, you know, we talk, I just see it here, images captured by the library video surveillance, that literally the technology my company uses. And so we're gonna be like, no, we don't capture this, and so, just knowing how people see this stuff
Mhm.
at times,
Mhm.
to have a companion document, just, as I say, a couple bullet points highlighting what it is, I think would be useful to have in our back pockets as we roll this out.
something to direct us in.
People get crazy about confidentiality these days,
Yes.
because nothing's confidential.
And yet they carry around iPhones.
What's that?
And yet they carry around iPhones.
That they unlock with their face.
And
May
they
I have
really
your
get-
attention, please? The library will be closing in 15 minutes. Please check out all material.
We can talk about it later, but I know quite a bit about this space.
No, it's smart. I think it's smart.
But yeah, I think that just is something to note as we move forward, and particularly as the managers, in the manager meeting, if there are specific things they want to call out, they think need to be called out, I would say raise that question to them. Or if there are things they have concerns about, I'd like to hear what that is as well. But ultimately, this is a good policy for us to have in place.
Yeah.
And look forward to seeing the final version of it. All right then.
So you'll bring it forward next month?
It'll be a draft, it'll be a final draft next month.
Next month.
I like to introduce a policy and then have you all vote
That's
on it at
fine.
the next meeting. So you'll see next month, you'll probably see two policies. Again, you'll see the policy that's unscheduled to
Yeah.
be reviewed, which I can't remember which one it is, but it's not a heavy one. And then you'll have this policy to look at.
Great. All right.
Orange Boy was one of the companies, but we also used another company, I can't remember.
We'll talk about that after.
Yeah.
All right. Now into our committee slash liaison reports. First up, we have the space planning committee. Jan or Chris, anything to report?
Nothing to report,
Let's see if Chris was.
waiting.
If he's texting you anything.
Yeah, text me anything, so I will take that as nothing to report. Do we even, are there any deliveries outstanding, Jan, or?
Yes, we're waiting for
Okay.
the rest of the furniture for the periodicals room.
Yep.
It's about 50,000, I believe, so.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
And do they have an ETA on the delivery?
I don't know.
Okay. Okay, fundraising committee, Peter.
Nothing to report.
All right, summer.
You and me and Danielle have to nail down a date.
He's so busy writing policy.
It's true.
Busy with a lot.
You found my passion. That's my
I found
passion.
your this is your
That's
path,
my path.
writing policies.
Policy and
I'm sorry.
open meetings law, that's really right.
Yeah.
That's my strong suit.
That's his jam.
That is my good.
All right, nothing from the ad hoc bond committee, but one thing to note, Scott, let's chat about, setting up time when we'll,
Oh, these lights
that's the
flash.
DPW.
They were here today.
But let's figure out which meeting we want to be, potentially the September meeting, or September or October meeting to hold it at Fairfield Woods. So we can do, the walkthrough and all that stuff. So I think that would be a good point for us to.
And we will have on the September agenda is a meeting schedule for this fiscal year that includes 3 meetings at Fairfield Woods.
Okay.
On a regular basis.
Great. And the Friends.
So the art gallery exhibit went up, I want to say 3 weeks ago. It's been well attended. We've done a really nice job with those. Liz Charter Center.
Absolutely.
We get great attendance on the openings. The artwork has been really good. The last one, I don't remember how many, but a number of the art, the pictures actually sold, the painting sold.
Oh, wow.
Always nice. So we like when that happens.
Yeah.
So that was good. Danielle had a booth outside at the sidewalk sale on Saturday. She probably sweat like 1,000,000 pounds like everybody else did, but it's a great thing to do. We have the cards, the note cards that we did from last year's, one of the summer projects, are for sale. She had membership to the Friends available. We had some other giveaways from the library. So that was always a nice outreach. On July 27th, we have a fundraiser. So it's cocktails at a private home with the author with Jane Roper, who wrote The Society of Shame.
Yeah.
So if anyone's able to come to that, it will be really great. It is, I think, 7 o'clock. There's a registration on the website, and once everyone's registered, they'll give the address of where the home is going to be. But it should be really fun. It's something different for us.
Black Rock Bookstores with you guys,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
It's
I
brand
started
new.
following
It's this
them. I
teeny,
went
teeny,
in.
tiny little
It's so
bookstore.
cute. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So
So
it's
cute.
called Black Rock Bookstore.
Yeah.
Jane Roper.
It's
And it's on Black
in
Rock.
Black
It's in a
Rock.
little tiny,
Yeah.
it's very small. Danielle took a ride over there. And
Post Road on Black Rock and so.
yeah, so it's a new little bookstore. It's 2 women.
Super cute.
Exciting.
So it's just something
I know,
else that's
isn't
over
it?
there.
Still missing the pink bookstore from Westport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good for them. It's new business. So I think they're excited to
It's a
do
nice
something with
partnership.
us.
Yeah.
It is a nice partnership. And then our annual meeting is on Tuesday, September 19th. And this marks the 20th anniversary of the organization of the Friends of the Fairfield Public Library. So we're going to try to make it a little bit special. We're going to do a little slideshow. We're going to go and tally up all the money that we've invested in programs for the town, which I don't know if Danielle or somebody's reached out to you, just to sort of get a picture of what the impact that Friends have had and why people should join the Friends and why we should come to these things. I know we have an author, but I forget who the author is at this point. So we'll have a little celebration. So, we'll talk about that later, but if anyone's able to come, that would be great. And then I mentioned last time, but the Food Truck Festival, which is really a big fundraiser for us, is September 10th. And it is no rain date, it's come as you are, and I think it's gonna be really fun this year. We're seeking sponsorships, so Mike and Jen put together a sponsorship package, and they're gonna reach out, we're gonna have people on the board sort of reach out and see if we can't, get some more funding for it so that we can keep more of the profits and support more of the programming of the library.
Great.
And that's it.
You're also doing another fashion show, October 1st.
Oh, okay, that's it.
Are you aware that Eartha Kitt's daughter, the entertainer Eartha Kitt,
I know who she is.
yeah, her daughter wrote a book about her.
Oh, yeah?
And her daughter owns a store in Westport. And she spoke at an event that I attended several weeks ago.
Oh.
She was so unbelievably entertaining. And
Huh.
the life, the book is about her mother, who had really quite an interesting life. Literally came up from dirt poor, really a mud shack. And I don't know which store she owns, but if you look up the book,
Yeah, I'll take a look.
it was just published last year. If you look up the book, you'll see her name, and she is in Westport. She owns a jeans shop or a t-shirt shop. And what a speaker.
Wow.
She had.
Be good to find somebody new to bring in the mix.
She was interesting, people had lots of questions.
Mhm.
Everybody sang Santa Baby. and-
No, no. That's great, thank you.
I wrote a book too, but I don't think you want it.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Yeah.
It was a book on the war.
Oh, okay. We have somebody who's.
Yeah. So what?
Remember?
All right, on to website redesign, which I believe we have an item in new business, so Jill, I don't know if you want to just table any discussion until that, or do you have any, you want to talk through the,
I'd like to talk through the schedule.
fantastic, let's do that.
So, yeah, I guess Scott probably provided you a little information, but we had a really great productive meeting with Mary, Scott, and myself to talk about website redesign, since got a little bit of a delay on that, thanks to me, but anyway. We talked through a lot of the work and the actual RFP, which Scott provided, the draft RFP. And this is based on other RFPs, including the one that the town just did, the town website.
The town website.
redesign. Yeah. So we put together a schedule. This is very rough. But we put together a schedule based on a few things that have some kind of important things. So we've given you guys the RFP to take a look at. The attorney is also looking at
Attorney
it.
hasn't identified.
Not yet, but it will be looking at it. And we figured we'd give you guys, until the next meeting in September to kind of do a deep dive through it and make sure it meets your requirements versus springing on you in September at the meeting, since I don't think we have an August meeting. Scott will be following up with the team. We're looking to have you guys vote in that September meeting. The final RFP, we'll make sure, like we said, that the attorney fully blesses it. Then we'll be posting the RFP to the public, and we'll be submitting the link to the vendor prospects. We do have some prospects already, that Mary and Scott have reviewed.
Great.
For some potentials. Then they have 30 days, then we kind of, the committee goes through it, gives you guys the top 3 of our recommended vendors, for the board to take a look at. And just moving along, we're hoping to sign the contract by mid-December, before the holiday in the new year, so we can get cracking. And then, of course, we'd start doing some meetings. Something that we talked about prior to having the vendor meetings commence would be doing either some focus groups or having the board, as well as some friends, also taking, and the staff, of course, looking at the current site and seeing if there's any sites that you guys all love and kind of recommend some things that we should be doing with the site, and making sure, of course, that accessibility is super duper important for everybody. We're hoping that they have a final tested site to the library team for testing as well as training by the end of April. And then we're gonna be also developing a marketing plan to launch the site, to get people excited about it and to learn about it. And then we're looking to have the site go live by beginning of Q2, so May 15th.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're really, really excited about it, and I have to say, Mary and Scott's amazing, as you guys know, but Mary is just so enthusiastic and really knows her stuff and, you know, takes care of all the website work for us and social, so it's great. So a couple of really quickie questions. I think Scott and I talked about, do we think we need to expand the website committee? Because right now it's a committee of myself, Scott, and Mary. Do we need to have anybody else be involved on that? Is that something maybe we talk to, I know everybody's super busy, but anybody we talk to, who comes in as our new?
We can always ask,
To have your.
yeah, we can always
The
add someone to it. I think
2 minutes.
the,
Please check out all material now.
What about a member of the Friends? What about a representative from the Friends?
I think that'd be a great idea. Yeah,
yeah,
I think it'd be a great idea. I mean, we are gonna solicit feedback from friends and from the board, but I think that's a great idea.
I'll bring that up. We have a board meeting tomorrow night, so I'll see if
Okay.
anybody's interested in.
yeah, that'd be
participating in
great.
that.
Yeah.
I did see on here the focus group with board, friends and
Yeah.
library staff, so I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that was something.
Yeah.
Scott and Mary and I thought was smart. And then who ultimately signs the RFP, Scott?
Because this is being paid for by the board, it's the board expense, so it should be.
Okay,
yeah,
so the
be a
contract
vote.
basically gets signed.
Yeah, it should be a vote.
Have we, how much have we allocated for?
A vote by the board, or who physically signs?
He physically signs the contract.
Andrew.
Andrew?
Okay.
Sorry, buddy.
Andrew's the fiduciary.
Yeah.
Who, do we have a budget?
No,
No.
No.
Be anything.
We have an idea of range, I think, based on what Mary was talking about, what they're charging the town, right, what the town's paying for the town website redesign. We have like a range, I think we talked about, but we don't have an exact figure.
What's the town paying for?
Oh. Look at my notes.
town's not paying for anything.
No, for their own
For their-
website.
For their
For their own
own
website.
I don't
It's got
remember what
different
the amount
departments.
was, but
Huh?
they're paying a decent chunk of change, from what I understand.
I'm sure it is.
I mean, I think we would hope we wouldn't come anywhere near what their budget is.
They also have a lot of different departments within the town site. I mean, I know
Yeah,
ours is more focused within our group, but I think that also is partially potentially the cost issue. People utilize our site differently than necessarily they would be with the town sites.
And Mary has traffic stats for page visits
Yes.
and all of that good
Yes.
stuff. I know.
Oh, yeah, she's got heat maps. We're gonna be looking, we're gonna be providing all that to the vendor too.
So we will propose a budget in September as we agree to the RFP.
You know, just, those,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because these things can be very expensive.
May I have your attention, please?
Yes.
The library is now closed. The library
What I would say
will
is, I
open
think
tomorrow from 9 to 8.
coming up in our agenda. But with regards to our annual drawdown, that we do need to allocate funds towards, obviously over the last 2 years, it's been mostly through space planning stuff. But that is something that we can look to cover off some of that draw.
Well, yeah, and that's what we had talked about, because we realized we did not, do you want to wait to talk about this, talk about it now, but we did not.
Well, it's treasurer's report, so
You put up a new business, I want to go by the agenda, we'll talk about the treasurer's report.
but we're gonna do treasurer's report that goes right on.
Right on, good.
Right on into the revolving.
Segues in.
That's fine with me. So overall, in the funds, the market's up, the asset balances are up almost 10%, which is great. Through the end of June, the balance hasn't been at these levels since Q1 of 2022, so all good news. I did withdraw the roughly 115,000 in May, right after our last meeting, so for the debt service pay down, so that's 100% paid down at this point. And the only other things I have to talk about, again, our advisor at Vanguard wants an account review. This is just standard, normal course, nothing out of the ordinary. So he did send me, I haven't gotten a chance to go through it yet. He did send me an email overview of the accounts, but I'll schedule some time, hopefully before our next meeting, to actually speak with him. So that gives us capital project funds. So I went in and it came in library, I should say, a few weeks ago. I met with Jan and Scott. And what we realized is that there was a motion back in 2019 to withdraw 2% for capital projects supported by the board, withdraw from the memorial fund. We realized this was not withdrawn for fiscal year 23.
Yep.
So technically, we think we would like to propose at this point to withdraw the funds allocated to last year's projects, which is really the furniture, to really cover that furniture order that you
Yeah.
asked, because it was technically incurred during fiscal year 23, although we haven't technically received the furniture.
Yep.
The order was placed.
And we had that, when we were planning out the budgeting for just the furniture refresh, phases, that was included as part of, like, we did have that built in
Yeah.
as part of the drawdown. So this is something that is not, shouldn't come to a surprise.
Yeah.
Perhaps it does, we don't talk about it all that often, but it is, there's no issue to do that.
Okay. And interestingly, I have to say, when I read the motion from 2019, I read it as 12-month average, because it's actually states 12-quarter average, which is a long period of time, 3 years. And Vanguard was helping me gather that information because they were not actually the custodians at that point in time. So it's taking me a long time to actually get that average, which is a little silly, but it's roughly $100,000. Let's rent for the sake if we can wait until the next meeting to have an official, or we can alternatively decide to use a 12-month average. But the motion did read to take a 12-quarter average, which to me is unusual, and I'm not sure if that was intentional. Because
Well, it's so interesting, because right after that, we went into COVID, and the 12-quarter average would get absolutely thrown out of.
yeah, 12 quarter, and
Out of
that's
whack.
a long period of time. So I have calculated from Vanguard the 12-month averages.
Okay,
We could use those, and that for 23 fiscal year would have been based on the last 12 months, so 21 to 22 would be $121,037.
Well, it is not unusual to do it in
12 quarters?
It's not, well, in my world of nonprofit.
Okay.
It wasn't unusual, but, I guess you could do it either way. I'm not an accountant.
Yeah,
Wouldn't it be more conservative to do it with the 12-month, right? Because your whatever
Isn't it
volatility is
12-month
happening
rolling
in
average?
12-month.
no, it specifically states, I actually don't have the paper in front of me, Jen, but I know specifically stated a 12-quarter average in
It
the
doesn't say
motion.
rolling average.
well, it would be.
Well, it has
Yeah,
to,
it had to be, it
Yeah.
would be rolling,
be
right?
12 months from when you do,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or 12 quarters from when you were.
Yeah, either way,
The end of your fiscal
yeah,
year.
yeah.
And the 12-quarter average is,
I don't have 12 quarters
okay, so.
data. That's what I'm waiting on Vanguard.
But it's roughly.
I mean, I
imagine it's
don't
gonna be
expect,
lower just because of,
exactly, because the market was up significantly in 21, right?
but also way down in 20.
Well,
22, not in
so
20.
now we'd be 20,
20, and towards the end of the year was down a bit, but not as down as 21. And
Oh,
then,
fiscal, so,
sorry, if we're talking, yeah, we might be.
no, you're right.
I'm still getting my mind around July.
The end of fiscal, yes,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
Why don't they have that? Because it was still Vanguard.
Uh,
It's just different accounts. I could get that.
it might be I can ping him again. It could have been something, to be honest. Like, he followed up with me and said, we're pulling this, it's just harder to.
Well, I have all the statements. I could get that
It could be, okay.
going back.
So I would say just in keeping with what was voted on.
Yep.
Previously, let's come back to it next month or next meeting with the 12-quarter average.
when is the furniture expected to be delivered?
I don't know, but let me see.
Because our next meeting isn't until September. That's why I'm just concerned about the timing. Because we only, First County currently has roughly $50,000
Okay.
for operating.
Not enough.
You really think we'll get it? I mean, even if we received it in August,
6 to 8 weeks, maybe.
if we vote on this beginning of September, we can go
I
check.
Fine.
I mean, I would suggest the board reviews all checks, or at least the check registry where checks are spent. I'm not gonna die on that hill.
Yeah. Honestly,
I mean, could we approve the 2% of the 12-quarter average without having the dollar amount? I don't know.
Yes, why not?
yeah,
Yeah, and that way it's approved. Of course, I'll tell you guys what it calculates at.
Yeah.
I'm not just gonna withdraw this and,
Yeah.
You're,
rather than having to delay this.
I think that's fine.
longer.
yeah,
but then you need a motion.
yes. Would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
You wanna-
Yes, so I am making a motion to withdraw for the fiscal year 23 balance of 2% of the rolling 12-quarter average to fund the capital projects, which most immediately will include the furniture order.
Second,
If you get it. Second.
all in favor?
Now, this is not the same as the drawdown discussion, right?
Correct.
Okay, so previously we just talked about drawing down money. Is that correct? My. or
No,
did I
this-
miss it?
This is the 2% draw
For capital project.
for capital projects only.
That I understood.
Yes, yes.
Did we have previously a conversation about another drawdown? Or did I miss?
Today?
Just, yeah, just,
Oh, yeah, the debt service. Pay down.
then I think we need to have a resolution for that as well in your minutes. Just to.
Yeah, that's fine then, yeah.
No, I don't think we do. That's something that we've, when we've done the debt payments on the bond, we've never voted on that before.
You're making a financial transaction.
But didn't you make a commitment to that?
But we already made that financial commitment 20 years ago.
20.
And we did discuss it during the May meeting.
And it's
Yeah.
over, right?
Yeah, that's now, it's now.
Yeah, the bond is.
So there's no bond
is
anymore to
complete.
front or to.
Okay.
That's correct.
Yeah. I see where you're coming from, Peter.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things that has been approved.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to see how well the police really operate. They really did a good job.
Steve, for the meeting.
They told them you didn't have to
Started
put
throwing
fence
things
by.
around.
I actually side with Peter on this one.
For the debt drawdown?
Yeah, I mean,
Some money.
I find it, but again, it's much like check registry, which I would like to see this body begin to review and approve.
Well, we would do this in advance of the ad hoc bond committee. Coming up with what our next, is that what we're talking about?
Well, no, what we're saying is if we were to issue, moving forward, what we would do is we would issue a bond. We would guarantee, we would guarantee the bond. And then each time debt payment was due, we would vote to have that drawdown to pay, to pay the debt.
Correct.
We have not done that in service of this debt.
Yeah.
So momentum's quite the,
That sounds a little shaky to me because it's not gonna be the same people ever. Like you could get 6 people to say, no, we're not gonna do that drawdown this time.
It's all financial transfer.
Well, it's a commitment, right? So all you're doing is
But you're making a
identifying a
commitment.
commitment that you previously agreed to. Do we have the funds to cover this commitment? Yes, we do, pay it.
Yeah.
It's almost more of an approval of a check register, not an approval of, not a question of will we or will we not pay it?
Yeah.
That's
It's,
correct.
we are
Yeah.
paying it this month, everybody
We've
remember.
reviewed it.
It's-
Yeah.
And you're
it's-
instead of
You just.
approving the transaction, not what the
That's correct.
transaction
You're approving
specifically
the-
is
Yes.
for.
You're showing that the board has done its due diligence to make
Gotcha.
sure.
You know it's coming,
Yeah.
but you have the money, so it's more of a,
I see. That's where
Yeah.
I got confused then.
Yeah.
I was like, we don't have-
so when we do the next bond, when the next one comes,
That's what we approved.
and that's when Peter and Aaron can, keep that thing rolling. I don't think Jill, myself, or Chris will be around for,
Where are you going?
well, it's taking a long time, Peter.
Very long, more than 6 years, yeah.
You know, they changed
Yeah.
the office,
Oh, we tried, Peter.
12 years.
Nobody voted to reduce our term.
I know. All right, thank you for that. We do have, I believe we've discussed the draft website RFP review. I don't know if you have anything else you want to mention about the RFP itself? Jill?
I don't, Scott?
No.
We'll, I'll try and get some, Marion, I'll talk to Marion, we'll try and get some numbers, some broad estimates in terms of cost. I mean, I have an idea, but
Yeah.
I don't want to misquote.
Yeah, I
So,
have a number in my head.
Yep. And just, I would say, for everybody to take a look through it at the high level for.
Yeah.
For what's included, what we're looking to, the timing we were putting out here, mainly most of section 1.
Yeah.
Was beyond that, then it gets into the legalese. So yeah, yep.
we're following the rules.
Fantastic. And then, the only other thing, Jill, I have a question with regards to the RFP. We put out on, or maybe, Scott, will it be put out on the website?
Yeah, we'll do the full.
And then will we be reaching out proactively to any, so do we have a list of companies we will?
We have ideas, we'll come up.
Yeah,
Okay.
we talked about a few vendors
Okay,
that Mary and the group's very fond of. And then also, because we had talked about reaching out to the vendor that's doing the town site, but Mary's not feeling 100%, but we'll make sure that they're aware of it, that they can bid.
Okay. Yep. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. The only other item in old business is the new trustee seat. We, as I mentioned earlier, oh, yes. Motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second,
Okay.
all in favor? Opposed? All right.
So I will tell you that I went to a training and I highlighted it in my report.
At this time, actually, before you continue, can you pause the recording, Jen?
Went from Vienna to London.
All right, so we have returned from executive session. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'd like to keep the meeting going.
I will second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay. All right, with that, we adjourn our meeting at 8:20 PM.